Dad, perfect events. The call came at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in my home office going over construction bids when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Pierce? This is Patricia Bennett from Corporate Audit Solutions. We need to discuss some irregularities in your company's financial records. Can you come in tomorrow morning? I'm Nathan Pierce, 58 years old, and I built Pierce Construction from nothing over the past 20 years. When an auditor calls you at midnight, your blood runs cold. What kind of irregularities? I asked. Unauthorized partnership modifications, sir. Someone's been changing ownership percentages without board approval. We found forged documents. I hung up and stared at my office wall. The company certificates hung there. Pierce Construction, founded 2003, current value around $2.3 million. 20 years of 12-hour days, missed dinners, and weekend work calls. Everything I'd built for my family. Victoria was already asleep upstairs. My wife of 15 years, the woman who started as my secretary and worked her way up to financial manager, the woman I trusted with everything. I couldn't sleep that night. By 6 a.m., I was dressed and heading to the audit office. Patricia Bennett was a sharp woman in her 40s with silver hair and no-nonsense eyes. She spread documents across her conference table like a prosecutor laying out evidence. Mr. Pierce, someone with access to your corporate accounts, has been systematically preparing to transfer 60% of your company ownership. Look at this. She showed me partnership agreements I'd never seen. My signature was on them, but I'd never signed anything like that. The documents showed Vincent Shaw, my business development partner, gaining majority control of Pierce Construction. That's impossible, I said. Vincent's just a partner on our residential development projects. He has no ownership stake. According to these documents, he does. Filed 3 weeks ago with the state. Your wife Victoria submitted them as your financial manager. My stomach dropped. Victoria had been acting strange lately, working late, taking calls in other rooms, being secretive about company finances. I'd chalked it up to stress from our big Riverside project. There's more, Patricia continued. We found evidence of unauthorized fund transfers. $150,000 moved from your operating account to an LLC registered under Vincent Shaw's name. The transfers were approved with your digital signature. I never approved those transfers. I know. We had a handwriting expert examine the signatures. They're forgeries. Very good ones, but forgeries. I stared at the documents. My wife, my business partner, my life's work being stolen from under my nose. What do I do now? Patricia leaned forward. You need a good attorney, and you need to be very careful. If they're this far along, they probably have an exit strategy. You need to move fast, but smart. I drove home in a daze. Victoria was making coffee in the kitchen, humming quietly. She looked up and smiled when I walked in. You're up early, honey. Everything okay? I studied her face, the woman I'd loved for 15 years. The woman who knew every detail of my business because I'd trusted her completely. Just couldn't sleep, thinking about the Riverside project. She nodded and poured me coffee. Vincent called yesterday. He wants to meet about some new investment opportunities. Vincent, my supposed friend who'd been helping me develop residential properties for 3 years. The man who came to our barbecues and knew our daughter Michelle. What kind of opportunities? He didn't say. Just that it could be really good for us. She kissed my cheek. I'm running late. See you tonight? After she left, I sat in my kitchen staring at my coffee. Us. She'd said us when talking about Vincent's opportunities. Not you or the company. Us. I called Timothy Miller, the best corporate attorney in town. We'd used his firm for contract negotiations before. Tim, I need to see you immediately. It's about my company. What's wrong, Nathan? I think my wife and business partner are trying to steal it. 2 hours later, I was in Tim's office going through everything Patricia had shown me. Tim's expression grew darker with each document. This is sophisticated fraud, he said. They've been planning this for months. Look at the timeline. The LLC formation, the forged partnership agreements, the fund transfers. This isn't impulse. This is a coordinated theft. What's their endgame? My guess? They're setting up to force you out through a hostile takeover. Or they're planning to claim you're mentally incompetent and have Victoria take control as your spouse. Either way, you lose the company. Can we stop it? Tim nodded. We need to move fast. First, we freeze all company assets immediately. Second, we file criminal charges for fraud and forgery. Third, we get a restraining order preventing any further corporate changes. What about Victoria? Tim looked at me seriously. Nathan, your wife is committing felony fraud. If we pursue this, she could face prison time. I thought about Michelle, our 22-year-old daughter finishing her senior year at UGA. I thought about 15 years of marriage, of building a life together. Then I thought about 20 years of building my company, of the 25 employees who depended on it, of my retirement that was supposed to be secured. Do it. File everything. That afternoon, Tim and I met with Detective Carol Thompson from the Economic Crimes Unit. She reviewed our evidence with the same grim expression I'd seen all day. Mr. Pierce, we can arrest Mr. Shaw immediately. The evidence is solid, but we'll need more proof of your wife's involvement before we can charge her. What kind of proof? Communications, text messages, emails, recorded conversations, something that shows she knew about the fraud and participated willingly. I went home that evening, knowing I had to become a spy in my own house. Victoria was cooking dinner, acting completely normal. We ate together, talked about Michelle's upcoming graduation, watched TV, all while she was planning to steal everything I'd worked for. The next morning, after Victoria left for the office, I drove to an electronics store and bought a small recording device. That evening, I hid it in our home office where Victoria often took business calls. For the next week, I lived a double life. During the day, I worked with Tim to secure company assets and gather evidence. At night, I acted like everything was normal while recording every conversation Victoria had. On Thursday evening, I hit gold. Victoria was on a call in the office, and I was listening from the hallway. Vincent, we need to move faster. I think Nathan's getting suspicious. My heart pounded as I heard Vincent's voice through the speaker. What makes you think that? He's been asking more questions about company finances. And he seemed weird when I mentioned your investment opportunity. Don't worry. The partnership documents are already filed. Once we trigger the competency hearing next week, you'll have full control. Then we can transfer everything to the new LLC. What if he fights it? With what? We have forged medical records showing his declining mental state. Dr. Angela Martinez will testify that you're concerned about his judgment. It's foolproof. Dr. Angela Martinez. I knew that name. She was a psychiatrist who'd been involved in several questionable competency cases around town. I still feel bad about this sometimes, Victoria said. Victoria, we've been through this. Nathan's 58. He's had his run. Now it's our turn. The company will be worth twice as much with my development contacts. You'll be set for life. Our turn. They were talking about my life's work like it was their inheritance. And what about Michelle? She's going to find out eventually. By then, it'll be done. We'll tell her we're taking care of you because you can't take care of yourself anymore. She'll thank us for stepping up. I felt sick. They weren't just stealing my company. They were planning to destroy my relationship with my daughter, make her think I'd lost my mind. Vincent, the $400,000 you owe those people, you're sure this will cover it? More than cover it. Once we liquidate Nathan's assets and merge with my development group, we'll have $3 million to work with. Those gambling debts will disappear, and we'll still have plenty left. Gambling debts. Vincent wasn't just a thief. He was desperate. Desperate men do dangerous things. I had everything I needed. The recording, the forged documents, the financial evidence. It was time to end this. The next morning, I called Detective Thompson. I have the evidence you need. We met at the police station. When Thompson heard the recording, she immediately issued arrest warrants for Vincent and Victoria. Mr. Pierce, we're going to arrest them both this afternoon. Are you prepared for what comes next? I thought about Michelle, about explaining to my daughter that her mother was a criminal, about 15. Years of marriage ending in handcuffs in courtrooms. I'm ready. They arrested Vincent at his office at 2 p.m. Word travels fast in our business community. By 4 p.m., everyone knew Vincent Shaw was in jail for corporate fraud. Victoria came home that evening looking shaken. Nathan, something terrible happened. Vincent was arrested today. They're saying he forged company documents. I looked at my wife of 15 years. Even now, she was trying to manipulate me. I know, Victoria. I'm the one who had him arrested. Her face went white. What are you talking about? I know everything, the forged partnership agreements, the stolen money, the plan to have me declared incompetent. I know about you and Vincent. She collapsed into a chair. Nathan, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I have recordings of you planning to steal my company. I have financial records of the theft. I have evidence of forgery. Tears started streaming down her face. It wasn't supposed to hurt you. Vincent said, we could make the company bigger, make more money for everyone. By stealing it from me, by taking control when you weren't thinking clearly anymore. I'm thinking perfectly clearly, Victoria, clear enough to destroy both of you. She tried a different approach. What about Michelle? What about our family? You're going to destroy everything over a misunderstanding? You destroyed our family the moment you decided to betray me. You destroyed it when you planned to have me declared mentally incompetent. You destroyed it when you chose Vincent over your own husband. Victoria's tears turned to anger. You don't understand the pressure I've been under. You work all the time. You never pay attention to me. Vincent made me feel alive again. So, you decided to steal my life's work? That's your justification? It wasn't stealing. It was securing our future. Our future? You mean your future with Vincent? The next morning, Detective Thompson called. Mrs. Pierce has been arrested. She's being charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, forgery, and embezzlement. Her bail hearing is this afternoon. I called Michelle at college. That was the hardest conversation of my life. Dad, what's happening? Mom called, crying, saying she's been arrested. Honey, your mother and Vincent Shaw were trying to steal the company. They forged documents and stole money. Silence. Then, are you sure? I have recordings, Michelle. I have proof. More silence. Then my daughter started crying. Dad, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I know, sweetheart. This isn't your fault. But Mom, how could she do this? And Vincent? I trusted him. We all did. Sometimes people show you who they really are when you least expect it. Your mother showed me she was willing to steal everything I built and have me declared mentally incompetent to do it. What happens now? There's going to be a trial. Your mother might go to prison. I'm sorry you have to go through this. Don't apologize, Dad. You didn't do anything wrong. You were protecting yourself, protecting the company, protecting our family's future. My daughter's strength amazed me. At 22, she understood what her mother hadn't. That betrayal has consequences. Do you want me to come home? She asked. Finish your exams first, then come home when you're ready. We'll figure everything out together. The trial preparation took months. Tim worked with prosecutors to build an airtight case. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged documents, financial fraud, recorded confessions, expert testimony on signature analysis. Vincent's lawyer tried to claim he was manipulated by Victoria, but the recordings proved he was the mastermind. His gambling debts, his desperate financial situation, his plan to use my company assets to pay off dangerous creditors. It all came out in discovery. Dr. Angela Martinez lost her medical license before the trial even began. The medical board found she had a pattern of providing false psychiatric evaluations in exchange for payment. She was supposed to testify that I was mentally incompetent, that Victoria was concerned about my declining abilities. Pure fabrication. Victoria's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. She claimed she was coerced, that Vincent manipulated her emotions, that she didn't understand the legal implications of what they were doing. She's lying, I told Tim. I heard her on the recording. She knew exactly what she was doing. I agree. The prosecution isn't interested in deals anyway. They want to make an example of this case. The trial lasted 2 weeks. I had to testify about the discovery, about finding the forged documents, about recording Victoria's conversations. It was humiliating, having strangers hear how my wife had betrayed me, how she'd planned to have me declared incompetent. But worse was watching Michelle in the courtroom. She came home from college for the trial, sat behind me every day, listened to her mother's crimes being laid out in detail. No 22-year-old should have to hear their mother plotting to steal from their father. Victoria looked different in court, smaller somehow. She wore conservative clothes, kept her eyes down, tried to look like a victim instead of a predator. But the evidence was damning. Her own voice on the recordings, planning my downfall, talking about our turn to control my life's work. Vincent showed no remorse. He sat there in his orange jumpsuit looking angry, like he was the one being wronged. His lawyer painted him as a desperate man driven to crime by gambling addiction, but the jury saw through it. The most powerful moment came when they played the recording where Victoria and Vincent discussed Michelle. "She'll thank us for stepping up," Vincent's voice echoed through the courtroom. I watched Michelle's face as she heard how they planned to manipulate her, make her think I'd lost my mind. Her expression changed from sadness to rage. After that, she never looked at her mother again during the trial. The prosecutor's closing argument was devastating. "Ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a mistake. This was a calculated, systematic theft of a man's life work. Nathan Pierce spent 20 years building Pierce Construction. He employed 25 people. He supported his family. He trusted his wife with the financial management of his company, and she repaid that trust by trying to steal everything he'd worked for. He held up the forged partnership documents. These represent months of planning. The defendant, Victoria Pierce, didn't stumble into this crime. She orchestrated it. She forged her husband's signature. She moved $150,000 from company accounts. She planned to have him declared mentally incompetent so she could take complete control. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. Vincent Shaw, guilty on all counts: corporate fraud, forgery, embezzlement, conspiracy. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in prison, no parole for the first 4 years. Victoria Pierce, guilty on all counts, the same charges, but the judge took into account her cooperation with the investigation and gave her 3 years, with the possibility of parole after 18 months. Dr. Angela Martinez pled guilty to conspiracy and lost her license permanently. She got 2 years probation and community service. I felt no satisfaction watching Victoria led away in handcuffs. Just emptiness. 15 years of marriage, gone. The mother of my daughter, a convicted felon. Michelle and I drove home from the courthouse in silence. Finally, she spoke. "I'm proud of you, Dad." "For what?" "For fighting back, for not letting them destroy you, for protecting the company and all those people's jobs. I'm sorry you had to see all that. I'm sorry about your mother. Don't be sorry about her. She made her choices. She chose Vincent over you, over me, over our family. She chose greed over loyalty. That's on her, not you." My daughter had grown up during this ordeal. The idealistic college kid was gone, replaced by a young woman who understood that people aren't always who they seem to be. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we rebuild. The company survived. In fact, it's doing better than ever. Turns out Vincent was skimming money from our development projects for years. Without him bleeding us dry, we're actually profitable. And personally, I'm learning to trust again. Slowly, carefully, but I'm learning. I kept 100% ownership of Pierce Construction. The company not only survived, but thrived. 6 months after the trial, we had contracts worth $4.2 million, and I'd hired 10 new employees. Michelle graduated college with honors and moved back home temporarily. She needed time to process what had happened, and frankly, so did I. We grew closer than we'd ever been. Victoria moved to Florida after her probation ended. She sends Michelle birthday cards, but we don't have contact. That chapter of my life is closed permanently. Some bridges once burned can never be rebuilt. 6 months. After the trial, I hired a new business development manager, Sarah Wilson, a straight shooter with 20 years of experience and impeccable references. She's helping me expand into commercial construction, something I'd always wanted to pursue but never had the right partner for. Sarah's approach is completely different from Vincent's. She believes in transparency, detailed contracts, and building relationships based on trust rather than manipulation. Working with her has reminded me what legitimate business partnerships look like. "Nathan," she said during one of our weekly meetings, "I've reviewed all your previous development deals. Vincent was taking a 15% cut off the top of every project and hiding it in subsidiary accounts. You were being robbed blind. How much are we talking about? Over the past 3 years? Probably $300,000, maybe more. It was staggering. Not only had Vincent planned to steal my entire company, he'd been stealing from me for years. The betrayal ran deeper than I'd even known. The good news," Sarah continued, "is that without those illegal fees, your profit margins are actually excellent. We can expand faster than you ever imagined." She was right. Within a year of cleaning house, Pierce Construction had grown from 25 to 35 employees. We had $4.2 million in active contracts and a waiting list of clients who wanted to work with us. Michelle decided to get her MBA with a focus on business management. I want to understand how companies work, Dad. I want to make sure what happened to you never happens to anyone else in our family. Watching my daughter channel her anger and disappointment into productive goals made me incredibly proud. She wasn't just surviving what her mother had done. She was using it to become stronger, smarter, more capable. You know what I learned from all this? She asked me one evening over dinner. What's that? That trust isn't something you give away freely. It's something you earn and maintain through consistent actions. Mom, broke that trust, and Vincent never earned it in the first place. You sound like you're gonna be a tough boss someday. She smiled. I learned from the best. You trusted people, but when they betrayed that trust, you didn't just roll over and take it. You fought back intelligently. You used the system to protect yourself and everyone who depended on you. Her words meant more to me than any business success ever could. 2 years after the trial, I got a call from Detective Thompson. Nathan, I thought you'd want to know. Vincent Shaw was involved in another fraud scheme from prison. He was running a fake investment scam using contraband cell phones. They added 3 more years to his sentence. Some people never learn. Vincent couldn't stop being a predator, even locked up. It confirmed what I'd suspected all along. I hadn't been his first victim, and if I hadn't stopped him, I wouldn't have been his last. What about Victoria? I asked. She's kept her nose clean as far as we know. Moved to Tampa, working as a bookkeeper for a small accounting firm. Low profile, quiet life. I didn't feel vindicated or satisfied hearing that. I felt nothing at all. Victoria had become a stranger to me, a character from someone else's story. The most important change wasn't in my business or my finances. It was in how I approached relationships. I still trusted people, but I verified everything. I still formed partnerships, but I insisted on transparency. I still believed in giving people opportunities, but I watched for red flags that I'd ignored before. Michelle asked me once if I regretted how I handled everything, if I wished I'd tried to work it out with her mother somehow. Honey, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Your mother showed me she was willing to steal everything I'd built and have me declared mentally incompetent to do it. There's no working with that kind of betrayal. There's only stopping it. But it must have hurt. 15 years of marriage gone. It did hurt. But you know what would have hurt more? Losing the company, watching 35 families lose their jobs because I was too proud or too sentimental to face the truth. Seeing you struggle financially because your inheritance was stolen. Sometimes the right choice is also the painful choice. Today, Pierce Construction employs 40 people and has contracts worth $5.8 million. We're bidding on our first major commercial project, a 12-story office building downtown. Michelle just started her MBA program and interns with us during summers, learning the business from the ground up. I still work 60-hour weeks, but now I sleep well at night. I know exactly who has access to my company, my accounts, and my trust. I learned the hard way that sometimes the people closest to you are the most dangerous. But I also learned that you can survive betrayal and come out stronger. The most valuable lesson I learned wasn't about business or finance. It was about human nature. People will show you who they are through their actions, not their words. Victoria said she loved me while planning to destroy me. Vincent called himself my partner while robbing me blind. Dr. Martinez took an oath to help people while participating in fraud schemes. But Patricia Bennett did her job honestly, even though it was easier to look the other way. Tim Miller fought for me, even when the case got complicated. Detective Thompson pursued justice, even though it meant more work for her. Sarah Wilson brought integrity to our partnership, even though she could have taken advantage of my situation. The good people outnumber the bad ones, but the bad ones can do tremendous damage if you're not paying attention. Sometimes I think about that phone call from Patricia Bennett. If she hadn't caught the irregularities, Victoria and Vincent's plan might have worked. I could have lost everything I'd built, spent my final years in a nursing home while they enjoyed my life's work, but it didn't work. Because when you build something from nothing, when you put 20 years of your life into creating value, you develop instincts, you learn to spot threats. And when those threats come from inside your own house, you deal with them, quietly, methodically, completely. That's the only way to protect what matters. And what matters is what you've built, what you've earned, and what you're passing on to the next generation. Not what someone else thinks they're entitled to steal. The betrayal taught me that loyalty isn't inherited or guaranteed. It's chosen every single day. And when someone stops choosing it, you have to be ready to choose yourself. I didn't just save my company that night. I got Patricia's call. I saved my dignity, my future, and my daughter's respect. Because sometimes the greatest victory is refusing to be a victim.